Welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports, joined by contributing writer Logan Glaser. Logan, thanks for coming on the show with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
Logan and I have been doing baseball previews the last few weeks. We are up to the third base position. Logan and I are going to give you the preview of the fantasy baseball third base position. We're going to give you a target, a fade, a sleeper, and then a rookie we like as well. We've been doing all the positions. We're up to third base now, Logan. This position's, I don't think it's too top heavy. There's good options late. I think it's a pretty balanced position compared to.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's very balanced. Unlike the last couple of positions that we previewed with second base and shortstop, it's not as deep as those positions. But there's a lot of players kind of hovering in that like 50 to 150 ADP range.
I think there's a lot of guys too later that you can get that will help in like certain categories. They might be a drag on some, but in other categories they could help. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. I think you could.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot more power at that third base position this year. So definitely be looking for home runs there in that middle of the draft.
Yeah, and if you want to put any of this knowledge to use, go to rtsports.com. We have all sorts of money leagues going on. Unfortunately, Logan, our RTFBC is sold out in record time this year. Kind of crazy, but our best ball championship is still open. That's a $10,000 grand prize, but I'm sure that's going to get close to selling out here shortly as well. We have different contests with All-American. We have our best ball ones. We have our standard leagues. You can do roto points, you name it, all different options, Logan, here at RealTime Fantasy Sports.
Yeah, we also have a new contest this year, and that's that home run showdown, where you're going to select 9 players, one at each position, and whoever has the most home runs at the end of the season wins. That's the only home runs are the only way to get points in that league. So average, stolen bases, those don't count. So you're just looking for power hitters, put up home runs.
It's always good to try different formats if you're sick of doing the same old, and that's a neat one. I think it's a lot of fun. Drafts are super quick, different price points for that also, and it's just a different way to play fantasy baseball. So I think that game's really exciting this year. I'm looking forward to the feedback on that. So, Logan, let's jump into this third base position now. We'll start with the targets. I'll let you go first. Who's a guy that you like rostering on a lot of your teams?
Yeah, as you mentioned before, it's not too top heavy, but I'm actually going with probably the top third baseman, I believe, with that. And that is going to be Austin Riley as my target. So I'm fine paying up here. The other positions, I wanted to wait a little bit more. So I'm going to go hard after Austin Riley in my drafts. He currently has an ADP of 18. So kind of going near the end of the second round with that. But he is just so balanced of a top player. Home runs, he's gone 33, 38, 37. Average, he's kind of hovering around 290 for his career average. RBIs and runs, he's over 100, averaging on those for the last 3 years with that. So there's a lot to like about Austin Riley. He plays on top 3 team in MLB and a hitter-friendly ballpark. So it's hard to go wrong with picking Austin Riley at the end of the second round. I think he's a good, safe play.
I agree. He is going to put up monster numbers as always. So my pick's a little riskier, but I just love the ceiling. My target's Royce Lewis of the Twins. He's the 6th third baseman off the board, so he's not quite as early as some of those elite guys. ADP of 59. I think his ADP's been climbing a little bit, though. I know there's a risk factor with him with his injury history. He was not able to play a full season last year, but when he's on the field, in my opinion, he's capable of leading all fantasy third basemen in scoring. And if I can get that as the 6th third baseman off the board, I'm going to take the chance there. He's just 24 years old. Last year, let's look at his numbers last year. 309, 15 home runs, 52 RBIs, 6 stolen bases in 217 at-bats. That's absolutely crazy to me.
Yeah, and at minimum, double all those. At minimum, probably 2.5 times those numbers.
Like I said,
looking at for a full season.
He's capable of leading all fantasy third basemen in scoring, and I think he's worth the risk there as the 6th third baseman off the board. I'm probably going to go a little earlier to get a backup just to, in case Lewis would get hurt. I think it's a smart play maybe to go a tad earlier, maybe get a guy with dual position eligibility at another position, second or third base or outfield, you name it. But I just think Royce Lewis could have a monster season, and I just love his upside. So I love him as a target this year. All right, Logan, flip side of things, a fade, somebody you don't want on your roster.
Yeah, this guy's going a little bit lower in drafts, and that's Matt Chapman. Just signed a new deal for San Francisco Giants, 18 million a year. I think that is a big overpay for him, based on his stats with that. But last year we saw a pretty big decrease in power for Chapman. He went from 27 home runs for the last couple of seasons down to 17. So that went down a little bit, and he's moving from playing in Toronto, a pretty hitter-friendly ballpark, over to San Francisco, which is one of the top pitching ballparks. So I expect those numbers to even decrease even further. And really, for his hitting, he really relies on his power because he's not a great average hitter either. So his career average is around 230 with that. So going down in power is definitely not a good sign for that, and also moving to San Francisco. So I'm going to be fading Chapman in all of my leagues this year.
Yeah, it's a concern going to San Francisco. I think his biggest asset maybe for that team might be his defense. So
it is for sure, and that doesn't help fantasy. So
so my fade is another guy, kind of he's a veteran at this point. It seems like he's still pretty young, but he's been around a little bit. And that's Alex Bregman of the Astros. So he is the 7th third baseman off the board. So he goes right after Royce Lewis. And in my opinion, he's not going to be really a drag on any of your categories, but he's not really going to be too exciting. I mean, he hits normally around 260 with 20 home runs, 80 RBIs, 80 runs. He doesn't steal bases, and he goes one pick after Bregman at the third base spot. I mean, if I'm going to go for a guy with a higher upside, I do not want Bregman. I just don't think his ceiling is very high. He hasn't had a 30-plus home run, 100-plus RBI season since 2019. He has hit less than 265 3 of the last 4 seasons. He's ho-hum. I just don't think he's very exciting. And I know some people like him because he falls later, and they keep thinking he could rekindle that 30 home run, 100 RBI magic from a few years ago, but I don't think he's going to do it. I think he is what he is at this stage of his career, and I don't see a big bump in production, and I just don't think he's a very exciting player. All right, Logan, let's talk about a sleeper, somebody maybe going later that you think could outperform their ADP.
Yeah, this player we both have connections to, and that's Jake Berger, ADP of 150s. He went to high school where Henry goes to high school at CBC, and then he went to college at Missouri State where I graduated from. So kind of fun having connection with him. He was drafted in the first round by the White Sox, and now he plays for Miami with that. Last year, he hit 34 home runs, 250 average. Again, he's going around 150. Power is his biggest asset, but for Miami, he played in 50 games he played with them. He finished the season batting 303. He really struggled with the White Sox the first half of the season, batting 214, but really rallied when he went to Miami. And if he can keep that up, he could be very dangerous going around 150. Again, he finished the season batting 250 and 34 home runs, which I would gladly take going in round 15. So even if he just put up the same numbers as last year, I'd be perfectly fine taking him. But there was a lot of encouraging signs in that second half of the season with Miami with his average.
So he's one of these younger players that just is more exciting to me than someone like Alex Bregman. So I like that call on Berger. Definitely, hopefully, he's found a home there in Miami. It's a good team on the rise as well. So he could do some damage there. I like that. So I actually think the player I'm picking as my sleeper is very similar in maybe production. And he's going later than Berger, though, and that's Eugenio Suarez. He moved to Arizona this year with the Diamondbacks. His ADP is 243. So I know seems like he's been around forever. He's just 32 years old, though. He's not washed up by any means. He has 30-plus home runs 2 of the last 3 seasons. He's moved to a much more hitter-friendly ballpark than Seattle. I just think he's undervalued right now. I know he's not going to help much average-wise, but he'll hit around 240. He could hit 30-plus home runs, driving around 100 RBIs, and at the 243 ADP, I just think that's a steal. I mean, that might be someone I look at getting if I take Royce Lewis early in the draft, because I think Suarez could end up helping out if Lewis ended up getting hurt. So I just like Suarez this year. He's kind of one of those veterans that people maybe are sick of because they're not very exciting, but he's been around and he's been productive, and I like the move to Arizona.
Yeah, it feels like just like 2 or 3 years ago, he was going rounds 4 and 5 when he played with Cincinnati in that hitter-friendly ballpark, where you could go out and hit 40 home runs a season.
Yep.
So I definitely like that pick.
I think he did that a couple times too. He had 40-plus home runs a couple of years in Cincinnati, so he could be good again. We'll see. All right, let's talk about the rookie class now. Third baseman has a few guys there I think could help. Who's a rookie that you like this year?
Yeah, there are several rookie third baseman this year, and I'm going to go with Tampa Bay Rays Junior Camargo. Most likely, he's going to start the season in the minors, so that's definitely keep an eye out. But expectations are that within a couple months of the season, he will be called up. He played in 7 games last year with Tampa Bay at the end of the season with that. But in the minors, he's just put up monstrous numbers. 20 years old. Last year, he hit 324 with 31 home runs in the minors. He's done that the last 2 or 3 years in the minors, putting up numbers like that. So there's a lot to be excited about for him, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later that he gets that call up. He's currently has an ADP of 204. So he's going into the draft. So I think that's a good flyer pick to take, just because you're going to have him on your bench for the first couple, maybe month or two. But when he comes and gets called up, he's going to be very dangerous.
He could. So I was debating between him and the guy I took. So I'm glad you mentioned him. My rookie is another, actually, it's not another, but it's a red. We were just talking about the Reds. That's Noelvi Marte. I just think Marte could have a big season this year. He got some action last year. He hit 316 and 114 at bats. He has some big time power. I know it hasn't always shown on film, blasting out home runs, but the potential is there for him to hit a lot of home runs. He's just kind of a raw talent. He'll also steal some bases. And I think he should have that starting third base job in Cincinnati. I think he could hit 270, 15 home runs, 70 RBIs, 20 stolen bases. His ADP is 174. So it's a guy that's not going to really drain you in any categories. I think he has a high ceiling. He could be a big player some weeks. So I like Marte as a guy to take later in drafts as a backup third baseman. Could end up helping a lot of fantasy teams his rookie season. All right, Logan, that's third base preview for this year. As always, a lot of fun talking with you about fantasy baseball. We're getting up to the outfield position now, and then we still have starting pitchers and relief pitchers left. We won't do utility. That's not a huge category, but
just pick Ohtani for that.
Exactly. Just pick up Ohtani. That's a good call. That's a safe pick. Yeah. So we'll look at outfielder next time we see you. But as always, thanks to everybody for watching, and thank you, Logan, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Jeff.
This has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day.